Okay, let's get started. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Michael Schachter. I'm a Senior Director of Product Marketing at Allot, and I'm very excited to be hosting today's Allot Secure webinar, along with my colleague, Eduardo Holguedo, who is the Director of Product Management of Network Solutions for Allot. And today, mostly he, will be discussing two very interesting and yet very different approaches to network-based security for the worldwide market. These two approaches both are based on the idea that it's best to block or avoid threats from within the network, but before they reach the end user, and without the end user really having to install or maintain software on their devices, configure, update, all of that headache that never really happens. So these two approaches are, on the one hand, DNS-based filtering, and on the other hand, what we refer to as a premium solution that's more robust than DNS-based filtering and overcomes some of the limitations that Eduardo will explain during this presentation. So we'll be drilling down and describing these two approaches in greater detail and giving you an idea of where they might be appropriate or less appropriate, depending on your work as a service provider. The topics that we'll be covering, will be giving you a little bit of a background to this presentation. As I said, talking about when DNS filtering can do the job. But we will also explain how certain kinds of threats and certain threat actors, and even your kids, can evade DNS security. And therefore, why a premium solution is more like a sort of a full body armor and not just, a shield or a helmet, but rather gives you kind of a wider, full, holistic security solution. And along those lines, we'll describe how our Allot NetworkSecure solution is exactly such a unique premium solution. So that's what we've got planned for today's webinar. And before we dive into the data and the actual, description from Eduardo, I'd like to give a little bit of background and housekeeping notes. So the webinar is being recorded, as you saw, and we will share a link to the recording after the event is complete, in case you want to revisit it, share it with colleagues who couldn't attend, etc. And so you're invited to, and you can also find it on our website, but we will send you the link to make it easier. And we'll also be sharing with you a couple of white papers, one from IDC that gives kind of a general overview on consumer digital life protection and why different kinds of solutions are needed and some of the differences among them. And even more specifically, a focused white paper by Frost and Sullivan that echoes and amplifies some of the very points that we're talking about in today's webinar. We have the Q&A window on your Zoom toolbar, and so we're happy to take questions either during, if we have time to answer, or we'll answer them at the end. And if we run out of time, we'll get back to you on them, but we'll get answers for you. Before we get started, and also throughout the survey, there are a couple of poll questions. The first one is really an opportunity for us to understand who our audience is today. So I'm going to launch the first poll, and I'm going to ask you to identify yourselves in terms of who you work for. Our audience for these products are service providers, communication service providers, or CSPs, or SPs, or ISPs, depending on where you are located. And so are you fixed? Are you mobile? Are you converged? Are you an enterprise that sells solutions to the CSPs? Are you something altogether that I didn't think of? So if you could just take a couple of seconds to answer this, then we'll have a better sense of who our audience is and maybe adjust accordingly. So appreciate if a few more of you could answer. Thank you. The poll questions are all anonymous, so you don't have to be concerned about, disclosing any kind of secret information. Okay, we'll give it a couple of seconds, and then I will close it and share it with you. Okay, and here are the results. So we've got about 40% that are service providers, fixed, converged, and a few mobile. A bunch of you are enterprise selling to CSPs, and the others that I didn't think how to identify. So having that information, what I'd like to ask is, within the organization, the type of organization that you just identified, what is your role? Are you in engineering, in marketing, and in networking, in operations, security, or again, something that I didn't think of? And although we are talking about security solutions, obviously they have implications for all of these domains of activity. So don't be bashful. Give it a couple more seconds so a few more of you can identify yourselves. And let me see who we've got here. Okay, and sharing the results. A bunch of others, but a lot of people from engineering and from security and marketing and networking as well. And again, you know, security solutions impact certainly the network and the engineering, and also need to be marketed to your end users. So we're happy to have you all here. And so what I'd like to do now is just give a little bit of background why we're talking about this topic. And if we see this first slide that's been up for a few seconds now, you know, we all know cyber threats are a serious problem, right? And just with some quick Googling, you know, I hit upon this federal agency in the United States, fully dedicated to dealing with cyber threats and advising the public, end users like ourselves, business users. It's a huge problem, and you know, there's news stories all the time, so that's no surprise. Similarly, you know, I quickly found that in the European Union, also a dedicated agency to cybersecurity, looking at, you know, what are the main threats today, what are the emerging threats, and I'm certainly, you know, every country has somebody dealing with this issue. And it's not a surprise either that they are looking at it very similarly. What are the main kinds of threats? And they both are looking at ransomware, they're both looking at phishing, they're both looking at all kinds of malware. Social engineering is a hot topic because a lot of the threat actors are, you know, cleverly kind of sucking us in and getting us to give up information because we think we're on a legitimate site. So the problems are widespread, and you know, you can see that the world is trying to deal with it. Internationally, hostilities have a whole cyber aspect to them as well. Commercial hooliganism, it's all very easy, unfortunately, to launch and impact us. And we see that as well. We've got systems deployed around the world at customers, and we twice a year publish a cyber threat report, and we share it with the public. All kinds of threats, different kinds of threats you can see on the left. But really the main point I wanted to make here is on the right, and that is that, you know, from year to year, there was a 50% increase in the number of threats that we saw unblocked. And it's just spreading exponentially, and I'm sure the next report will reflect this same situation. So, you know, we're all at risk. We're all being attacked. Eduardo will drill down into that. We also saw, by the way, we surveyed the market, your customers. Sometimes we survey end users like ourselves. Sometimes we survey service providers, and sometimes we survey the small, medium business crowd. But everybody is increasingly concerned and looking for service providers to provide solutions. And even we found a readiness to switch service providers in order to get better security. So it's a topic that's important to everybody, but it's even of a business impact for you, the service provider. Before we now drill down into the difference between these two kinds, the basic DNS and the you know, premium solution that I talked about and that Eduardo will explain in detail, just another kind of a quick question, just to see your experience with these different kinds of solutions from your own, you know, kind of business background. So let me run up another couple of questions for you. The first one is, you know, assuming that you are one of the CSPs, fixed, mobile, or converged, or another kind that I didn't ask, do you offer DNS filtering to your end users? So it'd be really great if all of you CSPs out there could answer. And don't know is fine. So if you don't know, that's helpful information as well. It'll give us a sense of what's out there. I'll give it a couple more seconds because this is very interesting for us. Okay, 2 more seconds. And okay. So sharing the results, slightly more yes than no. In the morning session, it was also, I think, around 45%. And if we split the don't knows evenly, we have very similar numbers to what we saw in the earlier session. It is a common practice to offer DNS filtering. Now we're talking about 2 network-based solutions in this webinar, but I wanted to also ask you how many of you as service providers offer endpoint solutions, using a third-party solution like Norton, like McAfee, like Bitdefender, that your customers can download, install, configure themselves, and you make it easier for them by providing it as a easy to access solution. Okay, we'll give this another couple of seconds and then I'll share the results. Okay. So this is a little bit different than what we saw in the morning. A higher percentage, 3/4, who do offer the endpoint solution. An interesting follow-up question to ask, which I don't have a poll question for, would be, do your subscribers use it? Because what we have found is that 5% is a very successful uptake. But anyway, let's ask one more question and then we'll get into the meat of the topic. So what I'd like to ask here is how important is it? Something's not working with this question, so we will skip it and just move on over to Eduardo, who will now talk about these 2 solutions that we mentioned. So over to you, Eduardo.
Thank you very much, Michael. Hi, everyone. Okay, so let's talk about the world we live in. These days, the internet has become a daily tool, sometimes used in traditional ways, like, for example, browsing to the news websites. But in some other cases, it's used in not so traditional ways, like, let's say, for example, that you are connecting your boiler to the internet to be able to set the temperature as you are arriving home, and make sure that the house is warm, right? Or even your alarm system to make sure that when you are on holidays, you are checking your house and again having that peace of mind that everything is okay. This is some of the good stuff the internet is giving us, but there is also some bad stuff, right? That we have to be aware of. And today we are going to focus on 2 fronts specifically. We are going to look at the security implications of the internet, as well as the content implications and how these are affecting the mass market. Now, the mass market, this is a term that is referring to consumers, first of all, so people like you and me, and also very small businesses, those that don't really have an IT team that is able to properly secure them. It's a very small business, just starting up, potentially very limited resources, and they are lacking the skills, the knowledge, and the budget to properly secure themselves. Okay. So let's start with the security angle, and here. This is the world we live in, right? The internet threats are evolving in complexity and sophistication. So this is no longer the game of a very skilled set of hackers that are living in a basement, right, as we see it on films, and are attacking big corporations. Don't get me wrong, that still happens. But as the time has gone by, all of these different advanced pieces of malware have been commercialized, and effectively they are being made available to people on the internet or on the dark web, on the deep web, so that they can just buy them and use them. So what this means is that is available to more people, and this is allowing these attacks to increase in frequency and reach. Because again, you don't have to be so skilled these days to launch this type of attack. All you need to do is to go and buy the piece of software that is again tends to be quite advanced because it has been created by a very skilled guy. You just need to kind of quote unquote press on the button, and all it's just a numbers game. So if you buy this piece of software, you are going to try and run it as much as you can and against as many people as you can, and you don't really care sometimes if this is a consumer or a very small business. Okay, it's just a numbers game. So this is translating to a situation where everyone is attacked, even the mass market. So again, it's not just the big corporations, it's also people like you and me, consumers, as well as small businesses. Now, another consequence of the internet is the content. And here I am going to focus first on the consumer side and more specifically on parental controls. Some kids these days are spending significant time online, and we all know that there is not just to do their homework. They are also watching the wrong thing. They are, spending too much time maybe playing games, maybe doing, unhealthy things that they are not supposed to view online. So continuously exposed to inappropriate content, and this is really making the parents feel helpless. Okay, they don't know what to do about it. If we now look at same concept, content being accessed, if we now look at businesses, small businesses more specifically, because again, when you look at the big corporation, the big business, they have an IT team, they have the resources, they have the expertise. So I'm not going to say it's all good and fine, but they know how to tackle it. In the case of very small businesses, they don't have these resources and skills, so they are kind of lost in the same way consumers are lost. So first, they are seeing their employees wasting too many work hours browsing to unrelated content. So this can be the employee browsing on Instagram, Facebook, or whatever it is, watching the news, watching the game last night. In any case, it's not content related to their daily work. And the following point, and this is a more serious one, and this is very important that we understand it, because employees sitting in an office, when they are going out to the internet, they are not going out as Matthew or Lucy. They are going out with a public IP of the business. So if there is someone going to, for example, a terrorism website, violent website, child pornography websites, so all of these websites that are really, 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 really bad, that they are potentially being monitored by the legal authorities, they can get that small business into trouble, right? Because they will see the IP address, the public IP address of that small business, and they will essentially, go and ask the business owner what is going on here. Okay, so it's very important that we are addressing that as well. But right now, business owners tend to feel helpless. Okay, they don't know what to do about all of this. Now, how do we address this? So first, we are going to talk about DNS filtering. DNS filtering has been traditionally the way to address security and even content filtering for a big network, okay, because it's very easy and fast to implement. So in a nutshell, very easy. You have your subscribers, your users, they are going to website.com, and this DNS request is going to hit the DNS filtering solution, and based on the policy assigned to that subscriber, it's going to know whether that subscriber is supposed to go to that website or not. So if that subscriber has defined a policy saying, for example, for my kid, I don't want the kid to go to pornographic content or to gaming content, what is going to happen there is that the DNS filtering solution is going to reply with a different IP address, not the IP address of the website requested, but a different one of a blocking page. So effectively, you are blocking the access. On the contrary, if the user is accessing allowed content, then as any other DNS server is going to respond with the IP address of that website, and then the user will just open the page. So the advantages here is, first of all, we are only looking at DNS traffic, okay? And due to that, the amount of traffic to be filtered is very, very little, so that the resources required are minimal. That's why I was saying that it's fast, it's simple, it's a very low footprint. In addition, being a network-based solution, it can provide wide network coverage quickly. So it's not like an endpoint where you have to go and install one by one, device per device, or even, when we think about a firewall that is per location. A DNS-based solution is, from the operator point of view, can be delivered from the network, and then for those that opt in or maybe get it as part of their bundle, they can just consume it. They don't really have to do much there, okay? So it's very, very easy to use. And it's suitable as a preliminary, or also known as first layer of security and parental control solutions for consumers. And we acknowledge all of these advantages. And due to that, we also have our own DNS-based security solution. It's called DNSSecure, okay? It's a DNS filtering solution for those customers that, even though they acknowledge the limitations that I am going to cover now, they understand that these advantages overweight these limitations. So now let's look at why a premium solution is more like a full body armor, as Michael was saying before. It's a good analogy because essentially, it's are you going to war with only one shield, or are you going to war with your helmet, with your shield, with a weapon, with absolutely everything you can? Okay, so this is basically the concept. There is more protection, and more specifically multi-layer protection. So let me start with the first situation. So here we have on the security angle, first of all, we have this example, this piece of malware called Emotet. I'm sure many of you are aware of it. It's a very nasty piece of software, of malicious software. In fact, it's a banking Trojan. But the particularity here, which is not so much of a particularity because we keep seeing it more and more, instead of using DNS-based communication, like, for example, when the malware installs, typically what they do is they connect to a command and control server to activate, to receive further instruction, to send stolen data, whatever it is. Instead of using DNS-based communication, like, for example, maliciousserver.com is using direct IP-based communication. Okay, as you can see there on the traffic dump. Now, what this means from a DNS solution point of view is that this is going to bypass DNS filtering. Okay, because the DNS filtering solution is expecting a DNS query. There is no DNS query here. It's direct IP-based communication. So now let me show you what will happen with the premium solution, with Allot NetworkSecure. So here, very easy. We have the subscribers on the left, NetworkSecure, let me say in between, filtering, and then the internet. Now, as a subscriber, what will happen is that even if the device is connecting to an IP address, as you can see there, still the solution is going to see that. It's going to check the threat database that we have and is going to determine whether this is good traffic or bad traffic. If this is bad traffic, malicious traffic, then what it's going to do is going to block it, okay? And if it is, just to show the full picture, if this is a legitimate IP address communication, then it's just going to allow it, okay? Now, the essence is that NetworkSecure is not just going to block malicious domains, so it's going to block, malware.com, phishing.com, same as DNS. But this is the first additional layer that I am explaining, which is looking at IP address based communication too. Okay, so it's going to be able to block those malicious IP addresses that are flowing through the network. Now, another example. So let's because this is something that also happens, and DNS, and we saw it on the poll, right? So having a DNS-based filtering solution is quite common, okay? So it's, but this is no secret, that's the problem. So the bad guys know that the DNS-based filtering solutions are in place. They understand this is, most typically something that they can expect. And due to that, what they do is they basically say, okay, so if there is a DNS solution in place, I'm going to bypass it. But this is an example of F-Secure, one of the signatures that they have for a Trojan. That what it's doing, as you can see, that is effectively going and changing the DNS settings of the device. And the moment this happens, then again, it's bypassing the DNS filtering layer. It's pointing to a third-party server, wherever it is, it doesn't really matter, because it's going to bypass any DNS filtering provided by the operator. Now, let's see what happens with NetworkSecure. So here we see quite similar to the previous picture. So we see, okay, it's going to website.com. Is supposed to be blocked according to the subscriber policy. Yes, supposed to be blocked. Okay, then I block it. If not, I will allow it. So no major comments. The main point here is that it will keep filtering, okay? Because NetworkSecure is not relying on DNS to provide security, okay? So even if the device protected by NetworkSecure is pointing to a different DNS server, is using DOH, is using any kind of DNS-based communication that is not flowing through their traditional channels, it doesn't really matter, okay? Because that traffic will still be seen, will still be filtered. Another example, okay, and this is an interesting one, and here you see two stats. So you see 16% of malicious URLs are hosted in trusted domains. And then another one, which in principle might not sound related, but it is very related, and I will explain why. 68% of phishing still uses HTTP. So let me go back to the previous one. So malicious URLs are hosted in trusted domains. So what this means is that you have a website. Let me say, for example, flowershop.com, okay? And then what is going to happen is that if this website is compromised, what the bad guys are typically going to do is compromising the payment web page. So, you can try and buy some flowers for your wife, for your husband, if he likes flowers. And when you go and enter your payment details, your credit card details, you're just hoping to get your flowers. But in the end, what is happening there is that this bad guy is sitting, maybe in the basement, maybe in the living room. We don't know these days because it's every average guy. Is going to get that payment. Is going to get that money. Is going to get your credit card details. Okay. So we have that on one side. On the other side, then we see here, and this is all based on third-party info. So this one specifically is coming from Bright Cloud. 68% of phishing still uses HTTP. So why am I saying that? Because from a DNS filtering point of view, it doesn't make a difference, okay, what I'm just saying now, because you are only filtering at the domain level. So when you see flowershop.com, you have to make a determination whether you are allowing or blocking that. However, there is one additional layer of granularity that is only possible with a premium solution, which is being able to filter on pages, okay? So what will happen here is when the bad guys are targeting these trusted domains, it's very easy. They will look at those websites that are more easily compromised. What is a nice clue for me that the website can be compromised? If the website is running HTTP. So they are going to be targeted. And then what happens is that for those, like, for example, if I go to the flower shop and then /payments, I'm going to add my fake payments website page, there. And it's going to allow me to get those payments. So when this is HTTP, from a network point of view, we are still able to see those pages, okay? Only from a premium solution. So we will be able to see that flowershop.com/payments, maybe we know that already this is malicious, this has been compromised, and we will be able to block just that page, okay? So it's a lot more granular in that sense. Let me show you how exactly that happens. So if we go to the initial stage, like for example, if I go to the flowershop.com, no difference here, okay? Determination whether this is allowed or blocked, okay? So let's say that the website is legitimate, this is allowed, but then we will see legitimate.com/compromised, okay? So a web page that is compromised. This is additional visibility that you only get with a premium solution. And then you can go and make a determination to say, okay, this page I am blocking, okay? So effectively, it's giving you more granularity to block compromised website pages. And this is quite important when we are talking about the mass market, okay? Because you want to minimize any potential overblocking. So if there is a legitimate website and that's legitimate and it's just one page compromised, you don't want to block the website, okay? So you just want to block as little as possible, just the bad stuff, right? In the same way that when, if you have an issue, for example, I'm going to say something very drastic, but if your arm is infected and they have to cut your arm, they cut your arm, right? They don't cut, the whole body. Just trying to give the best analogy that I could think of at the moment, but yeah, that's the concept, okay? You just try and cut what is bad, not everything. Let me give you another example before I continue with these horrible analogies. So this one here is the antivirus. Okay, so these days we all know that the internet is going encrypted. Is 90 to 95% of the internet is using HTTPS for sure. Yeah, no argument there. But when it comes to malicious traffic, still the bad guys are relying on HTTP quite a lot, actually. Why is that? Because for them it's a lot easier, right? I mean, if I have to create HTTPS-based communication, I need a certificate. I need to, I have to go through some validation to allow me to use that communication to implement it. And sometimes, they say, okay, all I need is communication. I don't really need, so much complication. So they just rely on HTTP, okay? And the fact is quite similar to the example before, when HTTP, as many of you, I'm sure, is unencrypted. So from the network, you can add this additional layer of protection to scan malware, okay? So this is exactly what we are doing. So we have this initial layer, same as before, going to domain.com, whatever, allowed, blocked. But then you have another layer, okay? So there is a file being downloaded over HTTP. This second layer can make a determination whether that file is malicious or not, and if it is malicious, it will be blocked, okay? It's quite important, and I will repeat it later, because a DNS solution can also use an antivirus engine, but they will rely on a proxy. A proxy means a separate, I'm going to say server, it's going to be a set of servers, a separate set of servers in the network that they are forwarding traffic to do that scanning. On paper, this might sound good, but in practice, what this means is that it's an additional network hop, it's additional latency that you are adding to your subscribers, okay? And they will not like that. In the case of network security, it's part of the filtering process, it's totally embedded. So we don't have to forward the traffic anywhere else. It's part of the flow. Okay. Now let's look at another one. So here I am moving more. I'm leaving security aside for a second, and I'm going to focus on content. Okay, as we were saying before, this is also problematic. So for kids, for browsing the wrong content, for employees, same thing. Now the reality is that it's extremely easy to bypass a DNS-based filtering solution. The bad guys, the hackers, are doing it as part of their malicious code. But as a user, I don't have to be an expert. I mean, these days, you just browse it and say, how to bypass filtering, and they will tell you, okay? So, this is the typical one on a Windows device, for example. I can just change my DNS settings, whatever. Looks easy, right? But I would say this is maybe the most complicated one. The easier one, and this is what commonly happens, there is an app that I can download, and you see it there, the one sitting in the middle, that at the click of or a tap of a button, it only has one button, okay, not 20, not 30, one button, you tap on it, and then DNS communication is encrypted, and you are bypassing DNS. And then you have the third one, and this is a trend, so specifically in this case from Firefox, that is using DNS over HTTPS by default, and not only that, is pointing to a third-party DNS provider. So effectively, what this means is that by default, I mean, the user doesn't really have to do anything. They open this browser, and then by default, they are bypassing any DNS filtering provided by the operator. What will happen with the network secure? And let me admit, this is a copy and paste of the previous one. Nothing. It will keep working, okay? Because this core filtering does not rely on DNS. Okay, so let's continue and see what makes Allot NetworkSecure a unique premium solution. So the concept here is relatively simple. So the concept is that we have taken the best of all worlds. I'm going to start with the DNS-based filtering, okay? So DNS-based filtering, which we have been discussing quite a lot so far, it's a solution that is quite nice because it is suitable for the mass market. Okay, so I can cover a wide, large network, no problem. It provides domain filtering, so I can block, phishing.com, malware.com, or even, news.com. It provides security and content filtering. So security meaning I can block, again, malware phishing.com. I can content filtering. I can say, okay, so for the kit, there is no pornography, there is no social networks. Case of small businesses, and there is no social networks, no news, no sports. Subscriber awareness. This is an important one because at the end of the day, this is a service from the operator. Even if you are bundling it, you want to make sure that your subscribers understand that they are getting value, okay? So it's quite important that they are perceiving that value. So for example, there are many different ways to support that, starting with a multi-tenanted platform, meaning that every subscriber can log in and see, their users, their reports, their what is happening, okay, what is the solution doing for them. They can also get SMS notifications, email notifications, push notifications, weekly reports. So all of these things are possible, which are, again, trying to reinforce that value being delivered. We then have a device agnostic, which is quite important as well. Unlike endpoints that strongly depend on the device where you are installing, DNS-based filtering, you're delivering it from the network, so it doesn't really matter what you are protecting, in the sense that there are no dependencies. So you can protect a home network, or you can protect a smartphone, or you can protect a SIM-based IoT device connecting to the internet. Now, let's talk about the considerations, because this is important to understand as well. So first of all, there is a high risk of bypass, as we said before. Okay, this can happen. It can be done by malware automatically. It can be done by kids, employees. Okay. Limited threat coverage. So it's missing those threats that are using direct IP-based communication. It's missing those threats that go and change DNS settings, right? Is missing those threats that are attacking specific pages, or using malware being downloaded from HTTP, and also seen as first layer of protection. And this is not me saying it. I mean, in general, this is the consensus is the statement from different well-known DNS-based filtering solutions. They are classifying their solutions as a first layer of protection, okay? So if you tell me, this is a first layer of protection, I'm thinking, okay, I need something else, okay? Endpoints, okay, so here, let me start with the main filtering, same as before. Yes, different endpoints may offer different capabilities, and I'm just going for, the common feature set. In general, they are also filtering based on DNS, so they are going to focus on domain only. Okay, some, but it's the minority. We'll look at URL, but normally it's DNS based. They are providing an antivirus, of course, the traditional antivirus engine on the device, and subscriber awareness, because if you have an application installed on the device, this application can throw pop-ups at you, can show stats. It's more it has more capabilities to show the value. Disadvantages, first of all, requires installation. Okay, this is the biggest issue by far. So it's not zero touch. You have to go and download it, install it, do it right, because for those of you that have done like an endpoint installation, is a painful process, and we are technical people, but if you give that to someone that is not really technically skilled, you have to assign all of these different permissions, especially these days on smartphones that it's crazy. I mean, it's like a lot of steps that you have to comply with for the good reasons, don't get me wrong, but it has to be done to the point that quite a few, not to say many, not to say most, will abandon the process and not do it. On top of that, even if you go and do that installation, it requires management, because it might be that that the agent, whatever the reason, the process was killed, is not running properly, is not updating properly, is not running the scans. So it requires some level of maintenance. Then you have this OS dependency, the operating system dependency. Okay. Some antiviruses out there will cover smartphones and laptops. Some of them will only cover laptops, but this takes me to the last point there. What none of them cover is bring your own device. So if I have a small business and I have employees with their own devices, no way I can say, give me that phone, I'm going to install an endpoint security solution. And also IoT. Okay, so if I have a SIM-based IoT device like a TV, a printer, or whatever it is, they are not supporting antiviruses. Okay, so that's the big challenge. So if those devices are infected, then they are hard, not to say impossible, to detect with an endpoint solution. And then we go to the last one, firewalls. Firewalls here, I'm talking about the usual suspects like Fortinet, Palo Alto, Checkpoint. These two are more on the enterprise. Sophos, all of these guys. Okay. Now, these are wonderful solutions, okay, don't get me wrong. They offer this feature set, like, for example, domain filtering, yes, same as the others, URL filtering, being able to block that legitimate website.com/compromised page. They can do that. IP filtering, so that situation with the emotet using IP-based communication, yes, they will see that, they can block that. Antivirus, normally they also offer an embedded antivirus engine. Security and content filtering, so they typically offer the two capabilities of blocking malware phishing.com, but also being able to create policies and say I want to block news.com or socialnetworks.com. It's device agnostic because it's per network. Okay, so it will cover the IoT devices and everything really that is connecting to that network. And also quite important, hard to bypass. Okay, so it's not so easy to bypass a firewall. Okay. However, there are quite important implications here. So first of all, it requires significant expertise. Okay, no way you can give a consumer a firewall. No way you can give even to a small business. Again, let's remember this is a small business with no IT team, no skills. You will give them a firewall, they will not know what to do with it, right? It's a very complex thing to configure, to connect to the network. It's complex. High cost, okay, so it's very costly to maintain, to the licenses, everything. For talking about consumers and small businesses, again, large corporations, they have the budget, they have the skills, no problem there. But for the mass market, the cost is also an issue, and that's not scale for the mass market. They are great for enterprises, really big enterprises, but not so much for the mass market. Okay, so this is where we are going to hit with a firewall these limitations on scalability. Now let me show you what NetworkSecure can cover for you. So first is going to the first one is suitable for the mass market. Okay, meaning that it's a network-based solution, so we can cover the mass market, so consumers as well as small businesses. It provides domain filtering. Okay. So we can block malware.com, phishing.com, okay, no problem there. Security and content filtering, so not just malware and phishing.com, but also you can create the policies based on users. Okay, so as a subscriber, I might create a policy for my kid and another policy for my elder kid. As an SMB owner, I might configure different policies for different departments, perhaps, or different people in my business. Subscriber awareness, so it provides this multi-tenanted platform where every subscriber can log in, can see their reports, can make their own configuration together with out-of-band notifications like SMS, email, or even push notifications for apps. Device agnostic, very important, since this is sitting on the network, it will cover any device. So it can be an office, it can be a smartphone, it can be a SIM-based IoT device, okay? The antivirus, as we said before, it includes an embedded antivirus engine that can scan as an additional layer of protection, can scan the traffic, the unencrypted traffic being downloaded. URL filtering, okay. Also looking at that flowershop.com/payments page, it can block just that if needed. IP filtering, that emotet case where it's bypassing DNS-based filtering, again, can look at that and block it. And last but definitely not least, and this is quite typically the most important parameter for operators these days, is hard to bypass, okay? Because if we are selling something and as a subscriber I am buying it, I'm trusting you that this is going to do it for me, and then my kids are bypassing it, or my employees are bypassing it, or the threats are bypassing it, I'm getting a false sense of security. So I'm paying for something that is not really doing the job for me. Okay. Okay, so let's continue with Allot Secure 360. Okay, so this is the umbrella, as we call it. So Allot Secure 360 is all about providing continuous security protection wherever you are. Okay, and this is you can see here the set of the different modules, also known as products, that operators can choose to deploy or to use. So Allot Secure Management is deployed at the operator's network. And when I say operator's network, I'm including here on-premise, but also co-location, private cloud, and even public cloud, so that those all possibilities exist, but it's owned by the operator, okay? So from a data privacy point of view, it gives quite a lot of peace of mind. And then from there, they can go and choose what are the modules that are interesting for them and their subscribers. So here you see the two that I discussed, so Network Secure, the network-based premium solution, and DNS Secure, okay? And then can combine them and use them as they wish, okay? So it can be, for example, that Network Secure is being used for the mobile network, and DNS Secure is used for the fixed network, just as an example, okay? Then we have Home Secure and Business Secure. So these two are a bit different in the sense that rather than providing the protection from the operator's network, these two are going to use a lightweight agent on the CPE of the subscriber, okay? And that lightweight agent is going to provide that filtering capability. So by definition, it only applies to the fixed or FWA networks where you have a device that you own as an operator. Okay, but in any case, from a subscriber point of view, there is nothing I need to do. There is nothing I need to install. Okay, so this is the huge advantage. And then you see on the right, the endpoint secure. Okay, so I saw many of you are using an endpoint already. Yes, makes sense, right? Sometimes the user can be the consumer, can be the employee, goes to a different network. And they get infected, okay? So it's another threat vector. So in order to address that, you can also complement it with an endpoint. Complement it, okay? So it's not addressing the whole thing, it's a complement, it's an add-on, as we see it, to cover that use case where the user is going somewhere else and connecting, not from your network, from a different network, okay? So to summarize, before I take some questions, so Network Secure provides enhanced multi-layer security that outperforms DNS filtering. First, it's not going to rely on device DNS settings for core filtering. It's much harder to bypass, so it keeps filtering even if DNS settings are changed or DOH, DNS over HTTPS, is used. Can block domains, so malware.com, phishing.com can block URLs. Flowershop.com/compromised page can block IP addresses of 10.11.12.13, okay? Can block just the compromised page when the site is HTTP, okay? Includes market-leading antivirus technology, which is very important, this additional layer of protection with no need for proxy, okay? So no additional redirection of traffic is required. Okay, so let me take some questions.
So we do have a few minutes. If people want to use the Q&A window, now's the time to send your questions. There was one earlier question, which I think was addressed perhaps, but might be worth repeating.
Okay. So I see it here. Do you support HTTPS encrypted DNS? Yep. So this is what we know as a DNS over HTTPS. I think. Okay. Yeah. I thought you answered. You didn't answer. Okay. But okay, I will answer now. Yes, so DNS security is supporting this. Okay, but it's very important to understand we are supporting it the same in the same way that other DNS vendors are supporting it, which is as long as the device is using the DNS server of the operator, you are fine. Okay, even if the device is using DOH, that's fine. Okay, so it will support it and it will keep filtering. But the moment the device is pointing to a third-party DNS server with or without DOH, you are losing that visibility. Okay, so in those cases, if you are concerned about that, that's when we are recommending NetworkSecure. Okay, so another one here. Why don't we see other solutions like NetworkSecure out there? Very good question. Okay, because normally, what we see is what Michael was asking before. You have these DNS-based solutions, endpoint solutions, and that's typically it. In some cases, we see an attempt, and I will repeat, an attempt to resell a firewall solution. Definitely not for consumers, but on the small business side, because maybe they have already an agreement with one of these vendors for large businesses, because in those cases it works, yeah. But okay, let's try for a small business, but it doesn't really work because of the reasons that I stated before. Okay, so in those cases, then it's more problematic because the cost and the complexity is not going to cover it. Okay. So in our case, we have been doing this for a very long time. Okay, I think we were, if you allow me, pioneers in this kind of approach. Okay, we've been doing it for well over a decade, and not just that, we have been deployed for well over a decade at operators worldwide, and we have that experience. Okay, and have to admit that at the beginning it was tough. Okay, because it's not easy to have a solution for operators, tier 1 operators. But now we got to a point where we are really experienced and we are able to deliver this product to basically every operator on the planet that is requesting it, okay? And in fact, we have this demand that keeps increasing. So yeah, multiple years of experience here. And why are we not seeing people, vendors, and trying this approach? Because it's not easy, okay? So it's not easy to create a telco-grade solution that is multi-tenanted for the millions and is able to filter the traffic this way. So that's probably why we don't see others, okay? Okay, so how does your antivirus scan the web traffic? Can you describe or elaborate on that? Yes, sure. So the antivirus is part of the filtering process. So the moment it will see, the first layer is as represented on the picture is the request. Okay, so if you are going to domain.com, that's what it's going to look at first. And then if that traffic, if that communication is HTTP, we'll also keep an eye on it and see if there is any unencrypted traffic being downloaded, okay, any HTTP traffic. And the moment it sees, any file like this, it will scan it. And of course, if there is any malware, it will block it, okay? Okay.
There's a question about the deployment, if it has to be a cloud service or can it be on premises, which I think you addressed, but if you could repeat the answer.
Yeah, that's exactly the one I was going to cover. So all of those services that you explained are cloud services, okay, on premise, okay. So the bottom line here is that the operator is the one that owns the deployment, okay? And they can deploy it in different ways. One option is on-premise, meaning on their own network. Another option can be co-location, okay? Another option can be, private cloud in any case, yeah, or even public cloud. So they can pick and choose the option that is more interesting for them, okay? So from our side, what we are hosting is just the updates, okay? So we are updating that threat database, that content database with very regular updates, in fact. But for the rest, the Allot Secure Management platform is fully owned by the operator. Another one here, do we need, and with this I will hand it over to you, Michael, do we need to have a specialized router from Allot installed as an ISP? Short answer is no, okay, in any case. If we are talking about the network-based solutions like NetworkSecure or DNS Secure, there is no dependency whatsoever with the router that you are using. So even the subscriber can go and buy a third-party router off the shelf, and still you can protect that subscriber because you are protecting from the network. Now, if you go for the other solutions like Home Secure and Business Secure, in this case, there is an agent that needs to be deployed. And in these cases, it's not like one specialized router, is one router with a Linux-based operating system and with a set of requirements that we'll have to integrate with. But it's not something special, okay? It's just common brands. We basically do an integration with the router in use, and that's it. That's the short answer. And with this, Michael, I will hand it over to you again.
Okay, so thank you very much, Eduardo, and thank you all for being with us. As I mentioned, we will be sending you a link to this presentation. Just quickly to leave you with the highlights. DNS, it has its uses, but the network secure solution really is multi-layered, and it's a better, more robust solution for you. It does, it outperforms it, as we said. It's harder to bypass. It also has antivirus embedded. It is, full featured. And Eduardo, if you're able to advance the bullets here. Right, because it doesn't use the DNS settings, which is that translation technique, it's not reliant on it. And so if DNS settings are bypassed, it doesn't affect it. It's got, the embedded antivirus, as I said. It keeps on filtering, even if a virus, a Trojan changes your settings or your kid tries to go around the DNS, it's in the pipe, it's in the network. And so the security is still in place, the filtering is still in place. It's not limited just to the high-level domains, but it can even look at URLs, and it can even block IP address communication, which we saw, like with the Emotet example, is a big threat out in the world today. And as I mentioned, the antivirus, which we take from leading third-party engines, is built in, so there's no extra latency. It's simply a much more robust, safer, more secure solution. If you want to go with DNS, we have a solution for you. If you want to go with Network Secure, we have this premium option as well. So thank you again. And if there were questions that we didn't get to, we will get back to you offline. Look forward to seeing you at the next Allot Secure webinar. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.